Hi there, Andy here, Engineering 1220. This is the second CAD assignment. In the first assignment, you made a Lego block or a couple of Lego blocks similar to some previous videos. This one, we're going to make some cylindrical objects. So let's get started. So here we are with the typical starting point for SolidWorks. And let's create a new part file. You'll recall from some of the first videos that you can make different planes visible or not visible. For this exercise, it's probably going to be helpful if you have the top plane visible. So you can just left click to select it and then go to the little eyeball there and show. And so you can see that it shows up as being solid and blue in the menu on the left, and you can see the plane even if you're not selecting it. That's helpful. If you want, you could also maybe make the front plane visible. There. So what we're going to do for this exercise is make a coffee cup. Something fairly common and simple, and physical sizes that you can easily find. There's two ways we can do it. Now, the way that you're familiar with already, we could start out by creating a sketch. Oh, I don't want it on the front plane. I want my sketch on the top plane. Oh, made a mistake there. Let's try again. We can select the top plane, make a sketch, and draw a circle. Select that circle. And then we could extrude the circle. Oh, I don't know, 150 millimeters. And we've got the beginnings of a crude coffee cup. We could then cut it. Oh, better select that. We could then cut it with an extruded cut on the top. And we could select to go, I don't know, 130 millimeters, so it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. And we would have the beginnings of a cup. I didn't do a very good job of that. You can see the holes aren't concentric, so one side is thicker than the other, and it's kind of a boring cup. It's just a cylinder. So let's not do it that way. Delete that. And delete that. Now you'll see when you delete something, the sketches that were the basis for the thing that you deleted actually are retained. That's kind of helpful sometimes when you're editing, but I want to delete those sketches too. I was starting off by showing you a way of making a cylindrical object that is kind of obvious if you now know how to extrude things, but for what we want to do in making a bit more intricate object, and that would be kind of limiting. So let's try and make a cylindrical object by revolving something. And for this, what we want to do is think about the cross section in the case of the coffee cup in the vertical axis. So I can either start off by picking the revolve tool here, or picking the sketch tool. And if I select a sketch, it's asking me what plane to do it on. I'm going to sketch on the front plane. So now I'm looking at a vertical elevation or vertical cross section of my coffee cup. And the first thing I want to do is draw a line that's going to be a vertical line to be the center axis of my coffee cup. And I'd like that to be vertical, and so I can choose to make it vertical. And now it is. I can also choose the length, and I want my coffee cup standing off the table to be 120 millimeters. So now I've got a line 120 millimeters that's vertical. That's the starting point. Now my coffee cup, it will sort of be rectangular, sort of, in terms of its cross section. So I'm just going to draw a half cross section of my coffee cup. I'm going to start off at the top here, drawing a horizontal line. Don't really care how long it is. I'm going to start at the bottom and also draw a horizontal line. Now, from within that line, I think I'd like to have a fairly curvy coffee cup. And I can make any complicated cross section, as you'll see, as I like. There's a straight line. I can do something really kind of wild. And I could stop those lines. I could go and I could select, a spline curve. That will make something more complicated. I can make this any shape I like. And you'll see that there's a lot of flexibility with that line that you like. That's going to be one ugly coffee cup. But I can play around with it later. I'm going to trim that line. Whoops, that line. And now you'll see that once I've trimmed it and it sees this sketch as a closed region, it grays it. So now I can see that this closed region, all the corners are connected and it's gray. But if I went to revolve this, as you'll see in a moment, I will have a coffee cup that is just a solid circular object. So in cross section, I'd like to hollow out the middle of the coffee cup. I'm just going to draw a line and maybe another line like that. And I'm going to trim the inside there. Trim that. Trim that. So now I've got what looks like a pretty funky shape. I don't know, my coffee cup should probably have, so I can wash it easier, a radius in here. So I'm going to accept a 10 millimeter radius there. And the other thing that I'd like would be my coffee cup. I don't want it to have a flat bottom like this, because that's hard to make it stand on a table without wobbling. So I'm going to do a cutaway there. I'm just going to simply draw a line like that and trim that, trim that. And just because I like having inside corners sorted, I'm going to put a chamfer. I'm going to make it a 2 millimeter chamfer on that corner. Now it's showing me a red mark there. It might not like how tight my chamfer was, but we'll see. There. So I've got this sketch that looks like so. It's got a very tiny piece of that original vertical line that I put in there as the center. That's enough for revolving. So the last step in making this circular object is just simply to pick the revolve tool. I've already selected that sketch. It's asking me on the left for an axis of revolution. And if I pick that line, that's one ugly coffee cup. But there we have it. Doesn't really look so good, so maybe I will edit it. And I can edit by selecting that little arrow. I can go to the sketch and I can edit the sketch. And as you've seen in previous videos, let's try and give it some dimensions. Now the first thing we'd like to do to make it easier to give dimensions is I'm actually going to take this line and I'm going to make it infinite length, and I'm going to say that's for construction. And that should have been a construction line for construction. There we go. You can see you can make these construction lines, they'll be dashed, but they'll allow you to dimension things a bit easier. Now, unfortunately, what I've done in that is I've also opened up this cross-section, so I'll have to close it again, draw a line from there to there, and we're back to what we had, but now I've got this center line. So I can start putting in some dimensions. I'm going to dimension from here to that point. Do I want the inside of my coffee cup to be 48? Yeah, I think I want it to be 40. And it moved everything else in. Do I want the thickness of my coffee cup to be something. So I'm going to dimension, oops, I'm going to dimension that. I actually want that to be 5 millimeters. And I really didn't like the way that this shape was done. So I can dimension that. No, I want to just move that in. And I can move that in. I'll just make it a little band like that. And I didn't really like the shape of this, so I can either just click and drag things like this. And with my curvy spline, that can make an interesting shape, and you can play around with the shapes of these things. So that might be a little bit better of a looking mug. Maybe it won't be, I don't know. But let's give that a try. So I haven't changed anything. Now I've got this cup that has a blub on the bottom, etc., etc. And that's the basis of making a circular thing. Making it with revolution rather than an extrusion, and you have a lot more flexibility with the profile and what you can do with it. Now, to finish this off, I think that maybe I will do a chamfer. I think I want my chamfer to be 1 millimeter, just for the sake of argument, on the inside. And because a coffee cup should be smooth, I want to fillet the outside of it. I'll fillet it also with 1 millimeter. So that'll be a little bit better for drinking from. And I would also like to add a handle. Now there's a lot of ways you could do a handle. It will require doing a sketch, certainly. We could do just simply an extrusion. We could do a swept profile. We can do it several ways. I think for now, I think I'll just do an extruded handle, since you know how to extrude already. I'm going to start off with a sketch. My sketch will be on the front plane. And I'm going to start my handle somewhere like this. I think I'd like to make it an arc. And I'll make it another arc. A different arc, I might add. Now I've got this shape, but I'd like to have a handle that is actually symmetric to that. So I can use the Offset Entities tool. And as you can see, the default was 10 millimeters, and it made an offset in the outer direction. Not sure if I'm happy with that. I wonder how it would be if I made it in the inner direction. Yeah, that's better. And I'll accept that. And I could now close this curve and see what I can end up with. Close it by drawing a line from there to there, and a line from there to there, and now it's a closed handle-y object-y thing. Now I'd like to maybe see it from the side view, so let's just see it inside view. And I'd also like to see how it is inside. So I can see that my handle doesn't come quite through to the inside, maybe just to make sure, just to make sure that I get it all the way in. I'll do that, and maybe I'll make it a little bit taller. Like so. I'm going to accept that, and I could do this as an extrusion. Here I'll use an extruded base for my handle, and it wants to extrude that way. 130 millimeters? No, I don't think so. Maybe we'll go 7 millimeters. How's that going to look? But I want to make it symmetrical. So I can make it direction 1 7 millimeters. I can make direction 2 also 7 millimeters. So that will extrude equally in 2 different directions. What do you think? Not too bad. So there, my coffee cup has a handle. I've made it so that it doesn't project on the inside. One of the problems you'll get into is if you do it this way, you'll find the inner surface, you'll pierce it with the handle projection, and that's not so pretty. Now we're just about done. I'm not sure if that's too flimsy looking a handle, but it certainly needs to be rounded. So I'm just going to fillet some of the corners. Maybe I'll fillet it with a 3 millimeter fillet. There. Not bad. I'm happy with that. There's my coffee cup. Give it a try. For this assignment, you'll be making yourself a coffee cup that you like, hopefully nicer than my design. This is kind of ugly, but gives you the idea. Good luck. Thanks for watching.